everybody! Welcome back. Today I'm going to make a video about some of the positives and negatives of living in a foreign country by yourself. And honestly, I think that this can be for living anywhere by yourself, not just a foreign country, but really anywhere. So I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives. And we're going to end on a good note. We will first start with the negatives. Let's get started. So I'm going to talk about three of the big, I don't really want to say negatives, so three difficulties that you can face when you are living alone. The first thing I think is something that we probably all expect, and that is to be alone. Loneliness is something that I think moving to a place by yourself, you're going to experience. Depending on where you move, especially in Korea, your amount of loneliness may be different. So for me, I'm living in a smaller rural city where there are not as many foreigners. So because of that, the loneliness is a little bit different than if you were to move to a big metropolitan city with more foreigners, like Seoul or Busan or Daegu. So those cities have a higher foreigner population, so you're more likely to make more friends, meet more people, and not be as alone. But if you are like me and you are living in a rural city, the likelihood that you will have more than one or two foreigners is kind of smaller. So for me, there's a few. One I'm super close with, and then there are a few in the surrounding cities, maybe by car 20 to 30 minutes, but by bus maybe 30 to 60 minutes. One thing I suggest to help with this difficulty is to try to make connections before you come here, or before you go to any place that you're going. I used Facebook. I'm with the EPIK program, so I joined the EPIK Facebook page, and I joined the Facebook page and the Kakao Talk for my province. And through this, I made some connections with people, so that whenever I came to the country, I wasn't 100% alone, right? Coming to a country and not knowing a single soul, I didn't have to face that. I had about a few people that I had made connections with, so whenever I came here, I could meet up with them and kind of explore around a little bit. Now, I'm still living alone, and I'm still in my city, basically alone, but it helped to not be in the country alone. Number two, the second difficulty is brain overload. So let me explain about brain overload. If you're moving to a country that doesn't speak your same native language, so for me, English, this can be very frustrating and very overwhelming. Obviously, I think that you should try to learn the language of wherever you're moving to, but for different reasons, this can maybe be an issue. So for me, I'm studying Korean every day. I am doing things to put me into the culture and to help me learn, but it is not coming easy for me. Learning languages in general is not something that I just do easily or quickly. So my Korean level is still on the lower side, even though I've lived here for a year and a half. Other people may not want to learn the language, which I think you should, but some people may not see the point if they're only going to live here for a year, or some people just refuse to learn. I've met those people. Whatever the case is, it can still be very frustrating and overwhelming whenever you cannot understand the world around you. Your brain is constantly struggling and constantly working to try to figure out and interpret the world around you. Because I'm trying to translate Korean into English and then English into Korean, and just even the simple tasks like going to the bank or going to the grocery store or getting on the bus or needing to fix something or order something is very difficult, and you kind of take these little things for granted, I think, in your own country, and it's just, you never realize how difficult it is if you are not speaking the same language as the person. So your brain can just feel very tired, very overwhelmed, overworked, and just need to rest, which you don't really get to have when you're living in a foreign country. Here is an example of something that may be easier for you to understand if you are not currently or have not ever lived in a country that doesn't speak your language. Get into your brain place and imagine you are in a, let's say, college math lecture for 2 hours, okay? And you are learning a difficult set of equations. You're learning a difficult set of equations, and you're trying so hard to understand what your teacher is saying, right? They're talking to you and they're giving these examples and they're explaining and they're writing all these numbers on the board, and you're trying so hard to understand. You're working constantly. Your brain is just turning and turning and turning. And whenever you leave the class, you just cannot think about math any longer, right? You don't want to add 2 plus 2. You don't want to try to calculate the time it takes to come home. You don't want to calculate the tip to leave your server whenever you're done eating, right? You don't want to have anything to do with numbers. That's what it feels like sometimes to live in a country where the language is different. You're constantly trying to figure out and learn and process and understand not just the language but even the culture around you, to the point where sometimes your brain just needs to shut off. And for me, I do kind of shut down. I come home and I have to call my mom or my dad and talk to them, or watch an American show, not even like a Korean show. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just need to not think about Korea or Korean any longer. Okay, and the third difficulty that you may face is not talking and not having any physical contact with people. I think it's not a common thing, and it's not something that happens all the time, where loneliness and being overwhelmed can kind of happen often and very frequently, but it does happen. It has happened to me, and I think it's something that is worth knowing about. Let me explain what I mean by this. If you know me, this may come as a huge surprise for you to hear this, but last week I almost did not speak at all for the whole week. Yes, no speaking for almost a week. And there was another time earlier this year where I had almost no physical contact, like touching or being touched by anybody for almost a whole week. So these things both come with living in a smaller city. So right now is winter break, so I don't have regular classes. I have to go with Epic. I have to go and sit at my desk. We call it desk warming. And or you're supposed to be teaching like winter classes, which I did not have any last week. So because of this, I'm sitting at my desk, and there may be 1 or 2 other teachers that might come in or be teaching other classes, but they're not going to be really talking to you other than like, 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요, you know, those kinds of little things. I obviously am speaking if I'm going to the grocery store, which is like, once again, 안녕하세요, or, you know, saying I don't need a bag, or saying how much is this. And, you know, if I go on the bus or if I go to the gym, I might say little things back and forth. But it's usually all in Korean, and it's very, very, very minuscule. So that week I realized, other than these very little things, I had not really spoken all week. I had even not really talked to my mom and dad that much, which I normally have pretty lengthy conversations with them every day. But from being sick and some other things that just come up, I didn't even really get to talk to them for that long either. And I realized it had been a week with minimal speaking, which I never expected to happen moving here, but being in a smaller city where you don't have those maybe groups that you're a part of or other foreigners that you're seeing or different things like that, it can happen. And then the touching thing, I realized when I was feeling so like desperate for physical like contact, like a hug or a handshake or something, that I had realized within that week, I think the only physical contact I had had with somebody was with my students when they came up and maybe they gave me like a little like hug or me like touching them to wake them up. Other than that, none. And for me, my love language is physical contact. So for me to feel, I guess you could say like emotionally satisfied, I need some kind of physical contact with human beings. You know, even a cat or a dog, you know, like pet them or have them lay on me. Even that would have been better than nothing. But yeah, almost nothing. Which you can experience that if you are single, or if you're living, you know, by yourself in a smaller place with no friends around. If you're in the middle of working, you know, like a regular work week, you can't just go off to another city on a Tuesday night. That's not gonna happen. So, if that's not possible, no contact. Okay, so I kind of threw all of these difficulties at you. So let's look at the positives that can come from living in a foreign country by yourself. The first is gaining independence and confidence. I think it takes somebody who's very confident and very independent to live by themselves, even if you're in your home country or you're just moving cities or moving states, or if you're like me and travel halfway across the world. You need to either have it or learn to have it. And for me, it was a little bit of both. It was kind of hard to be so self-sufficient because I've never lived alone like this. I've always had a roommate or more than one roommate, or had easy access to like my parents or something. So it was very different to just be totally on my own. You know, if I need to fix something, I gotta fix it. If I order something that needs to be put together, I have to put it together. Right? I can't just call my dad. Hey Dad, can you come and put the shelf together? What's he gonna do? Fly 20 hours to Korea to put together a shelf? No. The second thing is learning about yourself. So when you move to another country, you're going to be learning a lot. You know, you're going to be learning the language, hopefully. You're going to be learning the culture. You're going to be learning your job. You're going to be learning your city. But you're also going to be learning about yourself because you're thrown into these situations that you might not have ever been thrown into before. You might experience things that you've never had to experience before that make you learn about yourself, who you are, what your expectations are, what your wants and what your needs are. For me, I think something that I really learned about was being, you know, open-minded and open-hearted. Open-hearted? Is that a word? I know having an open heart. Being open-hearted. I'm gonna make it a word. So being open-minded and open-hearted was something that I thought I always was. You know, I thought I was very open-minded. I thought I was very patient, very welcoming. But being a white, straight female in America is you don't really face some of the challenges or some of the difficulties that other people have to face. And moving to a country where I am the minority, I definitely had to face some of those, and I learned how to be more patient and more understanding for myself and for those around me, which I think is something that everybody should have to do, because I guarantee if you think you are open-minded and patient and helping, you can probably do more and be more. I guarantee it, especially for some people out there. But with that being said, if you never have to be put in those situations, it's impossible to understand. You can try, you can really, really try, but unless you are put in those situations, you cannot understand. And so for me, I definitely have a better understanding of who I am and who I want to be, and how to be, I think, a better human being. Number 3 is another obvious, like being lonely was an obvious difficulty. I think this one is a definite obvious positive. Making new friends and new memories. I think I've said this in other videos as well. Whenever you're put into a situation like this, you really create these strong bonds with the people that you meet, because they're also in these same situations that you are in. They're in a different country by themselves, learning and experiencing and probably making these huge mistakes like you are. It's a different kind of friendship and a different bond and a different feeling than I've had with other people. I think you also meet people who are very similar to you, because it does take, I think, a certain kind of person to move to a new country and to do something like this. So I think that the people that I meet, I do have this kind of deeper connection with. You also make memories because you're in another country and you get to see these beautiful sights and try the food and learn about a different culture and a different history than what you've always been exposed to. And it's something that you won't be able to experience if you just stay in the same place your whole life. That's a great positive to come from it. I think that the positives far outweigh the difficulties, because even like I said, some of those difficulties you might not have every day. Some are more likely to happen. Some might be stronger some days and weaker other days. And some you might not ever experience. You might not ever go a week without speaking or without touching somebody. Maybe I'm just weird. Let me know if that has happened to you. Or if I'm just alone. Maybe. Don't be so worried about failing or making mistakes, because let me tell ya, I make mistakes all the time here. But if you approach situation with the confidence and the open-mindedness and the open-heartedness and the willingness and eagerness to learn, the people around you are going to help you. You're always going to find somebody willing to help you. You're going to be able to experience much more than what you ever thought you could. Just give it a shot. Just try. Just do it. Like Nike says. So I'm not sure if any of that kind of makes sense, if anybody else has experienced these things, or if I'm just super weird. If you live in Korea or another foreign country and you have experienced these things, let me know, because I am curious and I kind of want to know that I'm not alone.